Hello and welcome to this week's yoga session. We'll take a closer look at stabilizing the lower back, the lumbar, and the SI, sacroiliac joint, keeping the pelvis and the low back stable, and also on how to help to relax and release the psoas muscle, which can become chronically tight. Sitting causes the psoas to tighten up, especially sitting in chairs, and so for Westerners that spend a lot of time sitting in chairs, it tends to be a chronically tight muscle that in turn results in a variety of issues that can develop in the low back and in the sacroiliac joint. So the two techniques we'll be focusing on primarily are going to be using the abdominal muscles, especially the transverse, and to a lesser extent the external internal oblique muscles, to create isometric resistance to the diaphragm. And then the other thing we'll look at is a restorative pose that is designed to help us relax and release the psoas so it can open up. So first, this resistance to the diaphragm created by tightening the transverse muscle. To start with, if you'll just watch for a moment, if I lay on my back, and to start with you could use something like a 5-pound bag of rice or pinto beans, although this is a little bit more, this is about 10 pounds. And you place it on the abdomen, and then as you breathe, use your breath to lift the bag of rice, and on the exhale, let it sink. So, lifting and sinking. Now, if you don't have rice, or if you do but you finished with it, then use your hands. So with my hands, I press down in a similar way to the bag of rice, and then as I continue pressing down, I breathe in and out. Now, without the hands, breathe in naturally, and then as you're breathing out, use your abdominal muscles to force out the air a little bit more firmly so you feel a tightening through this abdominal region. So give that a try, laying on your back, knees bent. And if you want to try with a sandbag, you can, but just your hands is enough pressure. Pressing down with your hands, breathe in to that pressure. So the diaphragm is pushing air or drawing air into the lungs and pushing up on the stomach and intestines. Do that a couple more times. And then without using your hands, breathe in normally. And then on the exhale, deliberately use your abdominal muscles to push the air out more firmly. So you exaggerate the exhale. A couple more times. Relax on the inhale and contract the abdominal muscles on the exhale. One more time. And then rest. Now, the final step. You're going to exhale, use your abdominal muscles, and then instead of relaxing the abdomen as you breathe in, you're going to continue to keep the abdomen firm even as you breathe in. So give that a try. Breathe in normally, exhale, engage the abdomen to finish the exhalation, and then without letting go of the exhalation, breathe into the abdomen so the abdomen lifts and expands even though the abdominal muscles are trying to resist that movement. Do that a couple more times. Now this is going to cause a lengthening of the lumbar vertebra and a stabilization of your abdominal core. Let's come back to sitting now. Roll to one side and push back up to sitting. Now, if that was challenging, Shavasana, or laying on your back, knees bent, is probably the best way to practice it initially. And with practice, though, we begin to see if we can do it in a seated position and in our standing positions as well. So now, breathe in normally, exhale, use your abdomen, and firm up the abdomen as you finish breathing out, and then keep the firmness as you breathe in diaphragmatically. So the chest is not moving, the abdomen is expanding and contracting, but the abdominal wall is resisting the inhalation and helping the exhale. And you should feel a little bit of maybe fatigue developing in this area over time, depending on whether you're new to this or not. The more you practice it, the stronger these muscles get and the less you notice it. But at first it'll be normal to start feeling some fatigue in this area after 2, 3, 4, 5 breaths. Now, for those of you that take to this naturally, you can use it throughout today's class. Those of you that start to feel fatigue, just relax, focus on the other aspects of the yoga practice, and then when you think about it, come back and try it again until you feel fatigue again. Now begin relaxing your face. Allow the eyelids to close gently without squeezing. Soften the space behind the eyes, the jaws, the lips, the tongue. Let the mouth hang open slightly, slack-jawed. Feel that sense of release, of relaxation in the throat, in the neck, and then gently let the head float to the left or to the right. Cultivate a sense of heaviness in the head, almost hypnotizing yourself as you move your head around. Allow the shoulders to participate. As your head leans to the right, play with the left shoulder, rolling it around, and likewise as the head leans to the left, play with the right shoulder. Come back to center, roll out both shoulders. Opening into a twist, leading with the right shoulder blade. Across the left hand, lift, expand, broaden, and rotate. And then breathing into this position with a complete breath. But if you're able to, keep the resistance of the abdomen as you're breathing in and as you're breathing out. So lifting the chest, firming the abdomen. Take a couple more deep, complete breaths. Switching sides, leading with left shoulder blade, crossing the right hand over. Lift, expand, broaden, rotate, and breathe. If you lose your connection to that isometric resistance between the diaphragm and the abdomen, use your exhale. Tightening the abdomen as you breathe out to reestablish it, and then keep the firmness as you breathe in again. Take a breath or two on the second side. And then coming back to center, circling with the rib cage. Reversing. Rolling out the shoulders. And coming onto your hands and knees for cat-cow. Hands shoulder width apart, spread the fingers wide, middle finger pointing straight ahead. Knees hip width, On the exhale, tuck the tailbone, round low back, mid back, upper back, tuck the chin, and engage the abdominal core. Squeeze the air out from the lower abdomen. And then as you breathe in, lift the tailbone, open the belly, open the chest, look up. And try to maintain a little firmness in the abdomen, even as you move into the opposite position. On the exhale, reconnect with that abdominal core strength. Couple more repetitions. And back to neutral. Tuck the toes under. Walk your hands in close, lift your knees, and then either place your hands on your thighs coming up part way, or if you prefer, hang into a forward bend. Both knees are bent slightly. Sink the belly, lift the tailbone without straightening the legs all the way. See if you can create a stretch in the back of the legs without any sensation behind the knee. Move the stretch from side to side by bending first the left knee and move the stretch into the right leg. Then bend the right knee, move the stretch into the left leg. Go side to side a few times. Then stretch both legs evenly. Take another breath or two. And then roll back up to standing. Roll out the shoulders, feet hip width, outer edges of your feet parallel. Anchor the big toes, spread the little toes wide. If you remember how to spiral the legs, you can go ahead and add that. Now from our standing position, let's reconnect with that isometric resistance between the diaphragm and the abdomen. So lift the chest up and at the same time draw the navel in. Now by lifting the chest as we pull the navel in, the tailbone should sink slightly. So it should be just a very gentle tilting of the pelvis, the tailbone descending and the chest lifting, and the abdomen firming up and drawing in slightly. Now combine that with your exhale. Breathe in normally. And then as you exhale, keep the chest lifted and firm up, especially in the upper abdominal region, firming up. Now keep the firmness and breathe in diaphragmatically. And then on the exhale, reconnect to that firmness. So ideally, the abdomen is still moving, expanding on the inhale, contracting on the exhale. The diaphragm now is having to work a little harder. Place one hand in the small of your back, one hand over your abdomen, and then imagine squeezing your hands together on the exhale and then pushing, using your breath to push the hands apart on the inhale. And then without the hands, using the transverse muscle. Instead of the hand squeezing, use the transverse muscle to squeeze here. Now, ease up with 90% of the effort without actually dropping the effort altogether. So you're firming, lifting the chest, firming the abdomen, but now 10% effort. And breathe into that. And that should be enough just to create a sense of consciousness in your abdominal core and a stabilization. This helps to prevent low back and SI joint issues as we grow older. Now keeping that, float the arms out, drop the muscles, float the bones, and see if you can find a fascial stretch. Stretching the fascia. The muscles drop, the bones float, and then keep a heaviness in the arms as you expand. If you expand too much, your arms stiffen and feel light. So if that happens, start over. Drop the muscles. Let the arms grow heavy, and without losing the heaviness, expand. Then begin to play with your elbows and your wrists And see if you can move the sensation around and through the body. Maybe lift one heel or bend a knee. Try not to think too much. If you do it just right, it may trigger a yawn. And then bounce a little bit with your arms. Swing the arms out, roll out the shoulders. Vinyasa Sun Salutation. Feet a little closer. Again, check your feet for symmetry. Expand through the feet, lift through the arches. From prayer. Sweep overhead. And again, lift the chest, firm the abdomen, sink the tailbone. Keeping that core engaged, take the shoulders back and look up slightly. And on the exhale, reach your hips back and try and keep the tailbone long. Keep the low back lengthening. Keep the abdominal core firm as you reach the hips back, and then release into your forward bend. Take a breath or two. Roll up, buckle the knees, stack the vertebra. Float the arms overhead, lift the chest, firm the abdomen, sink the tailbone, shoulders back. And then keeping your abdomen firm, reach the hips back, and then release into your forward bend. Now, with your own breath. Roll up, stretch overhead as you breathe in, release into the exhale. Two or three more repetitions. One more overhead stretch, and hold the overhead stretch. Firm abdomen, chest lifting, shoulders back. Lift the left heel, flare the right ribs. Lift the right heel, flare the left ribs. Go side to side a few times. A little bit of a back bend. Finish with a supported forward bend, hands on thighs. Long spine, knees bent and soft, and then release into your forward bend. Take a breath or two. And then roll back up to standing. Couple of 12-step sun salutations to warm up. Coming to the front of your mat, feet together, toes and heels touching. From prayer, sweep up, breathe in, swan dive as you breathe out. Leading with the right foot, step back into a deep lunge. Hold your breath momentarily as you step into plank. And then, if you don't have the strength to come down as a push-up, take your knees to the floor first, and then pressing down. Pull through to cobra, roll the shoulders back and hold. Press the tops of the feet down. Now, lift the abdomen, just like we were doing sitting and standing. If you do it just right, you'll feel your tailbone move away from the shoulder blades. You'll feel your tailbone shift towards your heels just a 1/16 of an inch. Chest reaches forward, shoulders roll up and back, shoulder blades draw together. Take a breath or two. Downward facing dog. In this position, breathe comfortably. And then see if you can engage the abdominal core. Start with your exhale. Engage the abdomen to finish squeezing out extra air, and then keep the abdomen engaged on the inhalation. Two or three more breaths. Now, if you struggle with the next transition, set your left knee on the floor, lift the right hand, step the right foot all the way up to the front of your mat. Lunge, breathe in, forward bend as you breathe out. Overhead stretch as you breathe in, and back to center. Sweep up, breathe in, swan dive, breathe out. Left foot stepping back, deep lunge. Right foot following. Pressing down. Then use your hands to pull the ribs forward. Press the tops of the feet down. The knees will lift slightly. And then when you engage your upper abdomen, feel your tailbone release away from your shoulder blades towards your heels. Engage the back muscles, roll the shoulders up and back. Reach the chest forward and up, shoulder blades back and down. Take a breath or two. Downward facing dog. Take a few more deep, slow, complete breaths here. Those of you that struggle, set the right knee down first, lift the left hand, step your foot all the way through. Lunge on the inhale, standing forward bend on the exhale. Overhead stretch on the inhale. Back to prayer. Now stepping wide, Patrickanasana, triangle pose. Turn the left foot out 90 degrees, turn the right foot in. Spread the toes on the back foot, spread the toes on the front foot. Shift your hips to the right. Tilt the pelvis. Now same thing, as you breathe out, keep your torso long and firm up the upper abdomen. Feel the tailbone release towards the floor. Keeping that core, breathe in. And on the exhale, re-establish that firmness. Maintain the firmness on the inhale, exaggerate it on the exhale. And take that with you into the pose. Left hand can rest on your thigh, or you can come a little deeper if it feels good to your shin, or to the floor. Wherever you're comfortable. Keep this attention to maintaining that resistance in the abdominal core, and then using your diaphragm to push against that resistance. Keep that resistance on the inhale. 3 or 4 more breaths. Switching sides when you're ready. Turn the right foot out, turn the left foot in. Spread the toes on both feet. Spiral the right leg. Shift your hips to the left. Tilt the pelvis. Now, lift the chest up. Draw the abdomen in. Sink the tailbone down. Keeping that girdle firm and engaged. On the exhale, use that abdominal strength to help exaggerate the exhale slightly, and then keeping that engagement as you breathe in. So the abdomen expands slightly against the resistance of the transverse muscle. Right hand can rest on your thigh or your knee or your shin or the floor. Five or six breaths. Couple more breaths. Coming back up. Going back to the first side, Virabhadrasana 2. Virabhadrasana 2 and also Virabhadrasana 1 are poses where this action we've been practicing pays dividends and really helps to prevent low back injuries. So we're going to exaggerate this in Virabhadrasana 2. Turn the left foot out, 90 degrees, turn the right foot in. A little bit wider stance than triangle pose. Then bend the left knee, stop when the knee is directly above the heel. Then decide if you are struggling, close up your stance, walk the foot in closer, and then bring the knee over the heel. On the other hand, if it's too easy, walk your foot away from you, and then come into a deeper lunge. Now square up your shoulders with your hips. Straighten the back leg, strengthen the back leg. There's a tendency for the lower back muscles to tighten and pull up on the tailbone and exaggerate the arch in the back. So counter that by lifting the chest, drawing the lower abdomen just below the sternum, draw in and sink the tailbone. Keeping that, begin to focus on the rest of the pose. Float the arms, sink the shoulders, open the heart, turn your head, gaze out over the fingertips. Think about everything expanding except for the transverse muscle, which is contracting, drawing in, creating stability in the core, and everything else expanding and floating. Two or three more breaths. Remember to use your exhale to reconnect with this contraction. The end of the exhale. And then keep the firmness as you breathe in. Think about trying to breathe in behind, back into the kidneys. That firmness in the front of the abdomen redirects the air deeper into the back area. When you're ready, switch sides. Turn the right foot out, turn the left foot in. Spread the toes, lunge, widen or contract your stance as you need. Square up your shoulders and hips, straighten, strengthen the back leg. Sink into the back hip. Lift the chest, draw the upper abdomen in, sink the tailbone down. And then begin to add the other elements of the pose that you're familiar with. 5 or 10 breaths. Three or four more breaths. for the forward bend. Turn your feet pigeon-toed, and then walk your way down and either place your hands on your thighs or release to the floor. Sway a little left and right, and then bend one knee, and then sway left and right, and then straighten that leg, bend the opposite knee, move, sway, and straighten both legs. Take another breath or two. And coming down to the floor. Working next with the back roll. If you've got a roller, use it. Otherwise, a blanket will work. Firmer blankets work better. And as you roll, try to squeeze out the air, keeping the roll as tight as you can. If you unroll, it gets easier. If you roll it up larger, this will be more intense. We want it to be big enough that you feel like you're getting a little bit of a stretch and opening, small enough that you can still relax. You'll position the roller underneath your upper shoulder blades, just below the shoulders. You can support your neck with your hands, or if you prefer, you can straighten the arms overhead or out to the side. Elbows can be bent or straight. Experiment until you find a position where your neck feels safe and your shoulders are comfortable. In this position, we allow gravity to do the work for us. The more you relax, the more the body, the fascia will release and open. Two or three breaths. And then lift your hips off the ground slightly, and with your legs push yourself over the top of the roller an inch and set the hips down. The roller should be in the middle of the shoulder blades now. Once again, give yourself over to relaxing and breathing. Two or three breaths. Repositioning, lift your hips, roll an inch, set your hips down again. Roller now at the lower edge of the shoulder blades. Two or three breaths. Do three more positions. Lift your hips, slide over, and then when the roller is in the upper lumbar region, just below the shoulder blades, a few inches, lower the hips back to the floor. Again, breathe and relax. If you hit a spot where you cannot comfortably, safely relax, unroll your blanket until it's small enough that you can. Take a breath or two.
This time, lift your hips, slide a few inches, and when the roller is in the middle of the lumbar, lower your hips back to the floor. Two or three breaths. And then finishing with the roller in the lower lumbar. Lift your hips and then position the roller with your hands so that it is just above the pelvis. And then lower your tailbone towards the floor. And once again, relax and breathe into this new position. Take a breath or two. Now, we're going to position the pelvis now, or the roller under the pelvis. And if you had unrolled your blanket to make it easier, roll it up all the way so it's fairly large for this last position. And with the blanket under the pelvis or the roller, bring your knees into your chest and then decide whether you need to reposition the roller. If the roller feels like it's going to slip out from under you, move it a little bit higher up the pelvis. Hug the knees into the chest. Now hug your left knee, or your right knee rather, in tightly. Straighten the left leg towards the ceiling. And as you keep the right knee hugged in tight, slowly reach the left leg over the roller and let it fall on the opposite side of the roller. And then hang. Two or three breaths. Bring the left knee into your chest, hug it with both hands, straighten the right leg to the ceiling, and then slowly drop it over the roller and let it hang. This is going to help lengthen the psoas muscle. Bring the right knee back into your chest. And with both knees into your chest, we're going to do a variation on this movement. With both hands, grab your right shin, ankle, or heel. Position the right foot directly above the knee, which is directly above your shoulder. So a straight line from your heel through your knee into your shoulder. Pull the shin, ankle, or heel down so your knee moves closer to the floor. And then keeping it there, straighten the left leg to the ceiling and then let it extend out over the roller and hang. 4 or 5 breaths. Stretch the exhale. Couple more breaths. Bring the left knee in, hug both knees, and then grab the left shin, ankle, or heel. Pull the left knee in towards your armpit or towards the floor. Straighten the right leg, extend it, let it hang over the roller. Five or six more breaths on the second side. One more breath. Bring both knees into your chest. Let's try one more variation, this time a cradle. So with your left hand, grab the right heel, and with your right hand, grab the knee. And then pull your heel in, so you're similar to pigeon pose. Make sure your knee is comfortable, don't strain the knee joint. And just pulling your right heel towards your left shoulder. Keeping that, extend the left leg to the ceiling, reach it out, and then let it hang. Three or four more breaths. Cradling the right leg, move the cradle left and right like you're rocking a baby. Just a little movement to help release and open the hips and psoas. One more breath. Bring both knees into your chest. With your right hand, grab the left heel, and then pulling the left heel towards the right shoulder. Straighten the right leg, reach it out and over, let it hang. Five or six or seven breaths. Again, you can rock the left leg side to side, just exploring, creating a little variety and complexity in the sensations you're getting as you stretch the left hip and psoas on the right side. Take a breath or two. Bring both knees to your chest. Push the roller out from underneath you. Hugging your knees, rock side to side. Now we'll work with bridge. Bring both feet to the floor, close to the hips. Hip width, outer edges parallel, spread the toes. Bridge is considered an inversion, so if there's any reasons not to do inversions, if you're pregnant, on your period, hiatal hernia, stomach ulcers, glaucoma, headache, these are all reasons not to do a strong inversion. You can still do bridge, but just lift a few inches, don't lift all the way. For those of you that want to continue lifting higher though, you're welcome to. Start with the same thing we've been practicing. Exhale. Then as you finish your exhale, firm up the upper abdomen until your tailbone moves away from the shoulder blades towards the heels and the upper kidneys press into the floor. Then begin lifting your hips and breathing in. Now either lift a few inches, or if you prefer, you could continue lifting a little higher. Roll the shoulders together, open the chest. On the exhale, firm up the abdomen to help finish that last little bit of air as you exhale. And then keep the abdomen firm as you breathe in. Try to breathe into the lower areas of the lungs, but into the lower back. Firming up the abdomen to redirect the pressure into the pelvic floor and the lower back. A couple more breaths. Roll down one vertebra at a time. Keep the hips off the ground. Just before the hips touch the floor, hold. Then lift your left foot off the ground with your hands. Pull the left knee into your chest enough that you feel the pelvis rotate slightly. Set the kidneys down and pull the second knee in. Rock side to side. Take a breath or two. Now we're going to do a twisted bridge. Bring both feet to the floor as if you're going to do bridge. Now let both knees fall to the left a little bit, and then slowly float your right arm up and out at 45-degree angle, and then experiment until you find a position for the right arm that doesn't create any discomfort in the right shoulder. Let your left knee drop to the floor. So your left knee is on the ground, the left foot and knee, and the right foot is on the ground. The right knee is vertical or close to it. Now, press your left knee and your right foot into the floor and see if you can safely, comfortably lift your hips off the ground a little bit. Use your left knee, pushing down through the left knee to lift the hips. And then with your right foot, push your right foot into the floor and use that to move your hips forward, up, and to the left. So you're doing a twisted bridge. Now, adjust, not for how it looks, but for what feels like a safe, interesting, pleasant stretch. And breathe into that. Now bring your hips back to their starting position, moving them to the right and down, and then bring your knees back to vertical. If you need to, reposition your pelvis, and then let your knees fall to the right a little bit until the right knee touches the floor. The left knee is closer to vertical. Position the left arm horizontal or a little bit overhead or midway in between. Take a few breaths. Now pressing your right knee into the floor. Lift your hips off the ground, not much, just an inch. And then with your left foot, push into the floor and take your hips up into the right. Take a few breaths here. And then bring your hips to the left and down till you're back in your starting position, and come back to center. This time just the legs, don't lift the hips. Take your knees and let them fall to the left. Turn your head to the right. And then pandiculate. Lift your hands off the floor a little bit so the elbows rest on the floor. And then stretch and yawn. Oh. Do a pelvic tilting like cat-cow with the hips a little bit, but do it as if you're just stretching in bed without thinking. And then come back to center. Roll your knees to the right. Turn your head to the left. And then pandiculate with your arms, your wrists, your fingers, and your core. Contracting, expanding, rocking the pelvis. And if you're lucky, even yawning. Coming back to center. Coming back into our starting position, we'll do one more bridge. Check your body for symmetry. Start by breathing out. At the end of the exhale, squeeze the air out with your abdominal muscles. Curl the tailbone off the floor, lift the hips, and either stay there or working your way up into any variation of bridge. 5 or 6 breaths. Couple more breaths. Slowly coming back down. Stop just before the hips touch the floor. And this time, take the weight out of the right foot and then lift the foot, hug the knee in. As you feel the pelvis rotate slightly, set the kidneys on the floor, hug both knees, rock side to side. Take a breath or two. Now one more time. This time just freeform pandiculation. Stretching, twisting, arching. Oh. Using your fingers, your wrists, your elbows, your shoulders, your shoulder blades, your core, your hips, your toes, your whole body. Contracting and expanding. Roll to one side, come back to sitting. So we're going to close with a constructive rest position, and this is a position that is very, very helpful for releasing the psoas muscle. And we'll do it laying down as if we're in Shavasana with the knees bent. However, with the knees bent, the knees want to fall out, and so we have to engage muscles to keep that from happening, and that prevents us from relaxing completely. So we're going to tie the knees together so we don't have to worry about that. If you have a belt,
a belt or a tie or piece of fabric is the best option, and you can just tie together, and your feet will be knee hip width apart, and your knees will be just an inch or two wider, and it doesn't have to be much, just enough that your knees have some support. If you don't have that, you can use your blanket. If you fold your blanket long, and then you can just wrap the blanket around, and that's enough. You can see here, that'll keep my legs in position. So if you don't have a belt, a blanket will work. Now, if you can interiorly rotate your feet, that will increase the length of the psoas muscle. However, if your psoas is real tight, we want to be comfortable, so only do this as much as you can comfortably. Plant the balls of the big toes on the floor, lift the heels, take the heels wider, set them down. Bring your arms down, and then you can use your hands to lengthen the back of your neck. Draw the shoulder blades together and down. And then in this position, a complete relaxation. Breathing diaphragmatically, letting go of any resistance now. Allow the abdominal muscles to rest so that the diaphragm can breathe freely without any resistance. And feel the belly expand and rise as you breathe in. Sink softly as you breathe out. Begin to relax your face, forehead, eyebrows, eyelids, eyeballs, jaws, lips, the tongue, the mouth. Fingers, hands, arms, and shoulders. Feet, ankles, calves, knees, and thighs. Loosening hips, relaxing the buttocks. The low back, the belly, the kidneys, the ribs, the chest, the shoulders. Back of the neck and soften the throat. The jaws, the lips, the tongue, the mouth. Tip of the tongue, the belly of the tongue, the root of the tongue, all the way down the throat, softening, all the way down through the chest, through the abdomen. Tracing that line from the tip of your tongue, all the way down through the core, softening and relaxing. Cheeks, and especially the eyes, the eyeballs, the space behind, beneath, and around the eyes. The eyelids, the eyebrows, the
forehead, temples soft and hollow. The scalp and the crown. Scan your body, looking for areas where you have not completely let go. And then with an exhale, allow that area of your body to become heavier, distant, remote. Letting the body fall away with each exhale. Now slowly, lazily stiffen your core. Stretch the arms and yawn. Stretch, arch, twist. Take your left hand and reach it behind your neck, and then roll to your left. So your forearm is supporting your head. Take a few breaths in this position. If you want to release the belt or the blanket from around your knees, take a moment to do so. And when you're ready,
Push up to a comfortable seated position. So the constructive rest position that we just practiced, with the belt cinching the knees so that you don't have to engage adductor muscles and you can relax more fully, is used primarily to release the psoas muscle, but it has a lot of other benefits as well. It also is good if you're having trouble laying with your legs straight. If that's not comfortable to you, this is the best alternative. It is especially important though if you're having issues in the low back. Sciatica down the legs, tight psoas muscle. If you are actually suffering from these types of symptoms, they recommend 15 minutes in this position, resting twice a day, and many people will swear by that. The abdominal work we did helps to prevent these issues from arising, keeping the core a little firmer as we're practicing yoga, but also just in everyday life. If you try too hard, you get exhausted, but if you just float the chest, firm the abdomen slightly, sink the tailbone ever so slightly, maybe not even enough for anyone to notice, just enough for you to feel, that can help to improve your posture if you don't exaggerate it. We don't want to tuck the tailbone under. It's a very subtle shift here. More of an awareness of firming the core. And between those two practices, we can do quite a bit to prevent problems from arising. And if they've already started to become problematic, this can sometimes help to restore a sense of normalcy and health in this area of your body. Hope you enjoyed today's practice, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bringing your hands together over the heart. Namaste.